What if Anakin had a twin? Anakin Skywalker is one of the most notable fictional characters of all time, with a tragic story of pain and suffering. He grew up on Tatooine as an only child with his mother, but what if this wasn't the case? What if he had a twin? How would that change the Star Wars timeline that we all know and love today? Our story begins on Tatooine, 9 years before the Phantom Menace. Shmi Skywalker is blessed with a pregnancy that she can't explain, and she carries them with love. However, as she is giving birth, disaster strikes and Shmi believes that one of the children doesn't survive. Shmi is devastated and she buries this child in the desert outskirts of Mos Espa. But unbeknownst to Shmi, the child survives, clinging onto life with the dark side of the Force. A few days later, a massive dark side energy is exploded from the child, and all the way on Coruscant, Palpatine senses a creature calling to him. The Sith Lord follows the call of the Force immediately, going to Tatooine to find the baby radiating in the dark side, with over 20,000 midichlorians. Palpatine hadn't seen anything like it. He takes the boy to Naboo to keep him hidden from his master, Darth Plagueis, so that he can begin his training in secret. Palpatine names this boy Darth Solless. 4 years pass as Palpatine instructs Solless in the ways of the Force. He teaches him the basics, how to control objects, use Force mind tricks, and to tighten his senses. However, Solless displayed an affinity for the dark side. Palpatine brought in animals to test Solless, like Ewoks and Banthas, and without any training, Solless used Force choke to kill them. It was very impressive. However, Palpatine was still extremely busy with politics and setting up his grand plan, not to mention that he was also training Maul simultaneously. Taking on another apprentice was too much, so he makes a decision. He takes Solless to Korriban when he is 4 years old and leaves him there to fend for himself, believing that if he is powerful in the dark side, he should be able to survive. And the young Sith does just that. He spends 5 years fending for himself, growing more powerful and clinging onto life with the dark side. The first year on the planet saw Solless simply trying to find food and shelter and keeping himself away from dark beasts and those out to kill him. But as time progressed, his confidence in his abilities and passion for evil increased. At 5 years old, Solless was attacked by an entire herd of Shyranks, which were bat-like creatures with razor-sharp teeth native to Korriban. Solless defended himself, dodging and using his small stature to avoid their teeth and claws, but when he found an opening, he reached out with the Force and caught all 30 of them in a Force choke, closing their windpipes and killing them all within a matter of seconds. He was a special kid, and the dark side of the Force hadn't witnessed a talent like him in thousands of years. Over the following months, Solless would eventually begin hearing voices in his head, who were the ancient Sith Lords bound to Korriban. He followed their teachings and spent the next couple of years dedicating himself to training. By the end of it, he was extremely powerful. He harnessed Force Choke, but also developed Force Lightning and Force Scream. Before long, the Sith spirits began calling him the Sithari, believing that he can ensure the Sith dominance for all time. Hey guys, make sure to check out our saber shop, Fantasy Sabers, for the best NeoPixel sabers on the market. We have a bunch of perfect replicas and other insane Padawan sabers for sale. Check them out on our website, first link in the description below, and grab your own one today. When Solless was 8, Palpatine returns to Korriban and takes the young kid back to Coruscant with him to a secret facility on the outskirts of the city. The Sith Lord was amazed at how much Solless had grown and how powerful he had become. It was unbelievable, and Palpatine smiled from ear to ear. He continued the boy's training and tightened up things where he could, but all he actually needed was to grow older and into a stronger body. But his Force powers at his age were undeniably strong. On his 9th birthday, Palpatine gifted Solless by allowing him to battle Darth Maul to see who was the strongest Sith. Maul was lusting to kill something, and he ignites his double-bladed red lightsaber and leaps forward, striking with passion and aggression. But Solless remained calm, dodging the strikes and using Force Block to stop the blade before it hit his face. Solless then moved back and gave himself room, and when Maul jumped into the air, Solless perfectly timed his Force abilities, raising Maul into the air and using a Force choke that he trained with the Korriban spirits, and he killed Darth Maul. Sidious almost jumped out of his seat. He couldn't believe it. This child was a marvel. He would be the key to their victory. This led to numerous changes in the original timeline. Anakin is discovered as normal and the Trade Federation invades Naboo. However, because Maul dies earlier in the timeline, Qui-Gon survives and the Jedi Council allows him to train Anakin. When Anakin was first brought into the Jedi Order, Palpatine was extremely confused and concerned. He quickly pieced together that this kid must be Solless's brother. They were the same age, had the same midichlorians, and were found on the same planet. There were too many coincidences to say otherwise. Qui-Gon would spend the next 10 years training Anakin to become a Jedi. He would grow even more powerful than in the original timeline. Qui-Gon was the perfect master that Anakin needed. Obi-Wan was more of a brother figure when Anakin needed someone to be his father, to show him his place in the world. Qui-Gon would help Anakin master his emotions so that he wasn't consumed by them. He knew more than anyone that because Anakin was beginning his training late, he had already formed several key attachments that could propel him into darkness if not handled properly. To allow Anakin to control his emotions, on the way back from missions, they would stop at Tatooine to see his mother and have dinner. This meant that once or twice a year, Anakin stayed in contact and knew that she was okay. And when he was at the Jedi Temple or in battle, he wasn't constantly worrying about her. This allowed him to gain better control over himself. Qui-Gon had always strayed away from what the Council wished, and so this was just kept between Jin and Skywalker. Over the course of his training, he came in contact with Padme several times, and Anakin still falls in love with her. They would keep the relationship hidden to everyone except Qui-Gon, and this helped Jin to help Anakin control his emotions even more. Anakin literally had everything he needed to become the best version of himself, and he was 10 times stronger than in the original timeline because of Qui-Gon's tutelage. As for Palpatine, he trained Solless for these 10 years vigorously. The training was the opposite to Anakin's. It was dark, rough, full of torture and suffering. Palpatine ensured to squash any ounce of light that may peer through. By the age of 19, they are equally powerful in the Force. Both are the ceiling of power for the light and the dark. The Clone Wars would begin and the galaxy is thrusted into chaos. Anakin and Qui-Gon would become legendary generals for the Republic. In the original timeline, it was just Anakin that was celebrated as a hero and poster boy for the Jedi Order. But in this timeline, that's also Qui-Gon. They were a fantastic duo, two Jedi who actually cared about bringing peace and were very effective in battle. Anakin was dubbed the hero with no fear, and he lived up to this title by constantly winning in battle. Qui-Gon was certainly a lot older at this point, but his skill in battle was still admirable. They fought all over the galaxy, from Geonosis, Malastare, Scipio, Camino, and several more. On the other side of the conflict, Solless becomes the lead separatist enforcer. He was what Dooku was in the original timeline, but this time far deadlier. Dooku had some sort of moral compass, but Solless was pure evil. He led campaigns across the galaxy and killed dozens of Jedi. The war would rage for 3 years, and during this time, Anakin and Solless grew respectively. Towards the end of the war, Palpatine believed that there was enough discontent and ill sentiment about the Jedi and the citizens of the Republic that they would welcome a new era of leadership. The Jedi were seen as warriors, not peacekeepers. All except Anakin and Qui-Gon, of course. Palpatine is now ready to execute Order 66. He understands that he needs Anakin off Coruscant to complete the extinction of the Jedi. He was the only wildcard, and if he were on Coruscant, the Jedi stood a chance. Just like how Palpatine coordinated for Yoda to be on Kashyyyk during Revenge of the Sith. Palpatine would tell Solless it's time for his greatest challenge. If he wishes to become the Sithari and rule the galaxy, he needs to defeat his greatest enemy, his twin brother, Anakin Skywalker. Solless is shocked and couldn't believe it. He knew all the tales of the great Anakin Skywalker, but for him to be his brother, anger boiled in the Sith, and he knew what must be done. Solless contacts Anakin through the dark web on the HoloNet and tells him to come to Mustafar alone. It's time to see which brother is more powerful. Anakin was also shocked, but remained more stoic than Solless due to his Jedi training. He informs his master, and Qui-Gon contacts Padme and asks her to take Shmi to Mustafar, explaining the situation with Anakin's long-lost brother. Anakin's ship descended onto the volcanic landscape of Mustafar, where he located Solless standing on the hangar platform waiting for him. They greeted each other for the first time. Across the galaxy, Palpatine finally had all the pieces in place, and he executed Order 66. thousands of clones march into the Jedi Temple and begin massacring the Jedi Order. This happens across the galaxy, and Jedi are betrayed by the clones, and the mass extinction begins. Back on Mustafar, Anakin engaged his brother as they fought to the death. Red attacked Blue as they swung with all of their might, fighting until the bitter end. Between strikes, Anakin would speak to his brother, trying to call him back to the light. He didn't want this to be the end for his family, but Solless was resistant to any coercion and blasted Sith lightning at Anakin whilst throwing debris from all over the platform. The duel was chaotic, and it was clear that the two most powerful Force users in the galaxy were fighting. Solless had perfected all 7 forms of lightsaber combat, just like Palpatine, which gave him a slight edge over Skywalker. And on Nick Gillard's ranking scale, Anakin is still at level 7, as he hasn't descended to the dark side, while Solless is a level 9. Back on Coruscant, the massacre of the Jedi was complete. The temple lay ruined with bodies everywhere, and Palpatine believed that he had done it. However, little did he know that Yoda, Obi-Wan, and Qui-Gon had survived. Yoda and Obi-Wan survived the same as in the original timeline, and Qui-Gon didn't have any clones around him when the order was executed, as he was on Tatooine with Padme and Shmi. But when they learned of the massacre, Qui-Gon left them to go to Mustafar, while he met up with Kenobi and Yoda. They go back to Coruscant and confront Sidious. This duel would also determine the fate of the galaxy. Anakin continued to speak to Solless as they fought, inquiring about his upbringing, how he never knew he had a brother. For the first time, Solless replied, exclaiming that he was left for dead, that he was cast out by his family, and Sidious is the only one who accepted him. But Anakin tried to convey that the dark side isn't love, it's hate, and he is being used for his power. This only enraged Solless more because he knew that Anakin was right. He knew that deep down, Sidious didn't care for him, but what else did he have? They continued to fight on the volcanic platform, and heat and lava raced all around them. Anakin tried to clash sabers with Solless, and then sliced downward to hit his leg, but he miscalculated Solless's strength, and when their blades collided, Solless disarmed Anakin and threw him to the ground, defenseless. Solless had beaten him, and he raised his saber above his head, ready to deliver the final strike. But before he could end his brother, the sound of engines roared, and Padme and Shmi landed next to them, screaming at Solless to stop. Blood boiled inside of the Sith Lord, as Shmi ran out and begged Solless to not kill his brother. Solless asks who she was, and Shmi tells the Sith that she's his mother. The Dark Lord stopped dead in his tracks, his heart pounding as he didn't understand what was happening. His first instinct was to get out all the rage and pain he felt for being abandoned, screaming that she has no idea what he's been through. Tears ran down Shmi's face as she tried to come to terms with the fact that her son was still alive. Anakin, Shmi, and Padme worked together to talk sense into Solless. Shmi explains how when she gave birth, the doctors told her that one of her babies had died, and so she buried him in the sand dunes on Tatooine. She had no idea he'd lived. That's when Anakin stepped in and explained that he only survived through unnatural means. It was him clinging onto the dark side that meant he remained alive. Tears streamed down Solless's cheeks as he wrestled with the demon inside of him. All he wanted was to reach out with the dark side, to force choke Anakin and to get him to shut up. That was the easy way out. But the difficult path was confronting his mistakes and understanding that there is a family out there willing to accept him and help him on his journey back to good. For the first time, Solless de-ignites his saber and throws the hilt to the ground. Shmi begins to smile and cry as she runs over and gives her son a hug. When it was done, Solless had turned back to the light. Meanwhile, Qui-Gon, Yoda, and Kenobi fought Palpatine. This duel would rage on in the Senate chamber. The Dark Lord blasted lightning at Obi-Wan, catching him in the chest before using the Force to pull him closer as he kills him with his lightsaber. Qui-Gon screamed in agony as his apprentice fell, but Yoda remained stoic and kept fighting. As time went on, the Grand Master and Chosen One's teacher were able to wear down the Sith Lord, and eventually they found their opening and they killed Emperor Palpatine. As they stare at his lifeless body, his comlink rings and Anakin tells Qui-Gon that Solless has turned back to the light. Their nightmares were over. Now what remained was rebuilding. The Senate was informed of Palpatine's treachery, and after a new election was held, Bail Organa was elected as the Supreme Chancellor of the Republic. He reinstated the Jedi Order and gave them the full resources of the Republic to assist in rebuilding. Surviving Jedi from all across the galaxy were located, and after a few months, the Jedi Order grew back to 300 members, plenty to begin their crusade of protecting those in the galaxy. The clones all had their inhibitor chips removed, and after many trials, they were fit to become the army of the Republic again. Under the new leadership of the Jedi Order, including Yoda, Qui-Gon, and Anakin, the core Jedi Code had its amendments. Jedi were now allowed to foster attachments and could have their own life outside of the Jedi. Yoda and the rest of the council realized that true balance didn't come in suppressing love, but in encouraging it and then learning how to control it. It's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war, and the same can be said for the Jedi's emotions. As for Solless, he was accepted into the Jedi Order after passing a few tests to ensure he wouldn't collapse back into evil. Solless was his Sith name, and when he joined the Jedi, Shmi gave him his new name, Anakin Skywalker. He worked his way up the Order until he eventually joined the Jedi Council. His story was a reminder to all Jedi that even the darkest of souls can be redeemed. Shmi moved to Coruscant, where she lived in an apartment and got a steady job. She was very pleased, and so was Anakin, knowing his mother was happy and safe. Anakin and Padme could now openly marry and have children under the new Jedi laws, which meant that they became like a celebrity couple in the eyes of the Republic, the most powerful Jedi with the Senator of Naboo. And so, the Skywalker family was very happy. Anakin and Hayden lived the rest of their lives as brothers, and ensured the Republic was safe from anyone trying to harm it again. If you enjoyed today's video, you must watch What If Anakin Had Visions of His Death and What If Fives Told Anakin Everything Before He Died. Please check out Fantasy Sabers if you're looking for an affordable saber to add to your collection. We offer RGB, Xenopixel, and Profi in various sizes and designs. Also check out our membership platform to be able to watch our videos early. Thank you all for watching, and may the Force be with you.